2 Ninja Gaidens.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I didn't count Ninja Gaiden. Was it black,
Black
right?
2, yeah.
What are you guys saying?
didn't-
You guys are saying
I say Ninja Gaiden.
I don't know what that means.
You say Gaiden.
Ninja Gaiden. I don't know. What's the...
It's
Wait,
from the
we got a linguist with us. How do you say it, Russ? Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Nerd Nest Podcast. We have a lot to talk about today, starting with PC gaming is consistently and has consistently been outperforming consoles, and this is not a new phenomenon. We've got that to talk about. I also want to talk about the new Xbox Developer Direct that we just had. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday. They had 4 games that they showed off. I want to talk about those. I want to talk about CD key shops because I keep saying that I wanted to talk about this. I want these guys to teach me about CD key shops because I'm always afraid to use them. And I also, if there's time, I want to talk about fake frames. And if we don't get to that this episode, then we will definitely talk about that next episode, as well as maybe some comments from last week's episode. If that sounds good, let's jump in and get started. Rich.
Yeah.
You just put out a video talking about this topic extensively. And if anybody hasn't seen his video, I'll link it down below. So make sure everybody checks it out. But we just got this huge 200-page slideshow.
Yep.
Rich posted in our Discord, and I looked at this and I said, I do not care enough to read 200 pages of this. And he goes, just wait for my video.
Just wait for the video. Yeah.
So I watched his video. It was awesome. So make sure that you guys check it out. But Rich, tell us about this widening gap between PC gaming and console gaming.
Yeah. So this presentation is by a venture capitalist / private equity firm called Epsilon. Just right off the bat, there are some things that, you have to take into consideration with that. What is the purpose of this, slide or this deck? And the deck is called The State of Video Gaming in 2025. So it goes into a lot of things with regard to gaming, but mostly talks about kind of where the growth has been and where the analysts, the game publishers, and all of those sorts of people have faltered in what they thought growth would be. And then finally, where they think growth is in the future. And so apparently from 2011 to 2020, through now, right? PC gaming has been growing faster than console gaming. Not just that, but since 2013, it passed console gaming, or 2015, depending on how you look at it. So 2013 is console gaming. So that's Xboxes and PlayStations. And 2015, I think, is console and handheld gaming. So that they put Switch into console gaming, and they put DS and stuff like that into handheld gaming. So since 2015, PC gaming has been ahead of console gaming, and that's in terms of total spend. So it includes hardware, software, subscription models, DLC, that sort of thing.
Yeah, the one thing that I noticed in the graph that most of us ignored, but the biggest section of gaming is mobile.
Yep.
Is people playing on their phones.
Yep.
And
by far.
Oh, yeah, huge. It's a huge amount. That is where all of the money... Somehow Apple came in and they said, okay, we're going to completely take over the gaming market. And it doesn't feel like they did, but they absolutely did. Apple and Google have way more money in gaming than anybody else, which is kind of crazy to me. Russ, how often do you play games on your phone?
Just Balatro when needed. But the thing is, a good example is this morning I was coming in the studio and I had to take an elevator up, and there were 3 other people in the elevator as we were going up. All 3 of them were playing mobile games. You know what I mean? So they were gaming while the gamer was not. I was just sitting there kind of just waiting for my floor, And so it was just kind of, it just made me think of that when you're talking about it, because that's 3 people that were gaming right then and there on mobile platforms, and they were Candy Crushing it. I don't know. It was awesome.
I was going to say, could you tell what they were playing? So Candy Crush.
No, one of them had their volume on, so I could just hear the blink, blink, blink. Some sort of gambling games are really fake gambling games are really big here in Hawaii because there's no gambling whatsoever, not even a lottery, and so people love to play fake poker games and stuff here.
Yeah, that's cool.
Carrie, you've said a million times you just want a gaming phone that has like built-in stuff. I mean, we have the MCon, which we talked about a few episodes ago, which is like this little controller you slap on the back of your phone via like MagSafe, and then it transforms into a controller. It's really cool. How often do you spend actually playing games on your phone?
Kind of comes and goes. Typically, I only play Hearthstone, and it's whenever Hearthstone sinks its teeth back into me, depending on whatever new card set that they have. So right now, I don't have Hearthstone is out of my system, so effectively, I don't play any game on my phone.
That's fair. What about you, Rich?
I also don't play any games on my phone, so I haven't even installed Balatro on my phone. I just play on the Steam Deck. And what I do play on my phone is really just Connections. I don't know if you guys, Bill, you and I have talked about Connections.
Yeah.
So it's the game on the New York Times gaming app or games app. And it's just like, one of those word games. So I do that. I do the crossword, and I, maybe do like the daily chess puzzle or something like that. So that's all I do on my phone is those three.
Yeah. For me, I have two games on my phone. Balatro, which I almost never play because you have to hold the phone sideways, and I don't like to hold the phone sideways when I play. If there was a vertical version of it, I would absolutely play like that. The other one is called Crossword Jam, and basically you have this circle with different letters in it, and then you just kind of got to fill in the crossword, and that's like I play that like once a week. And
the moment you brought that up, I saw aware. I was like, oh, that's the word right there.
Yeah. So when you hold it up,
my mind's already doing it.
All you do is you just trace the letters AWARE like that.
Yeah.
I can't turn my wrist that far, but you guys can see how it works. And then you just fill it in, and it's like, ooh, look, you got all the points. And it's an Apple Arcade game, so that means that there's no microtransactions. There's none of the stuff that's built to slow you down in most mobile games, which is why most mobile games I won't touch. Most mobile games I just will never even touch because we as in the consumers, we trained them that not to put the good games on there and to microtransact us as much as they possibly can. And that's the only way that they can make money on those games, because every time, like when Nintendo tried to put Super Mario Run on there and charge $10 for it, which it was actually a fun game, they said, oh, $10? No, screw you. And then they also made the mistake of putting the demo on there for free, and then you had to upgrade the demo to the $10 fee, and that meant everybody went in there and gave it like 1-star reviews because they didn't want to pay for it. It just absolutely killed that game. We trained them that we don't like those kind of games, and whatever, that's fine. But that's not what this... I just noticed it, and I thought it was interesting. Russ, how much do you think of your time is PC versus console these days?
It's getting really close to like 100%. At this point, like console gaming for me is Astrobot, and that's it. Like I'm knee deep in Final Fantasy 16 right now. I think I've put in like 25 hours at this point. Like I'm actually playing the game. Like it's really crazy, putting the hours in. But it's on PC. I waited for it to come to PC. I waited for the price to drop down to like $40 something, and now it's just a perfect little experience for me. I'm able to like stream it to my other handhelds and stuff like that when I'm in the house. And that's a console game that I deliberately waited to play on PC, which shows how much like faith and whatever else I'm putting into just PC gaming in general. It just all clicks a lot better for me. So unless there's a console exclusive I can't play somewhere else, like Astrobot, which really requires that DualSense controller experience, I'm just going to be going on PC, I think.
Carrie, I know that you are big into PC gaming, but in the past, were you ever mostly a console gamer, or has it always been mostly PC for you?
So it was always like kind of, even in the 90s, I would like kind of waffle back and forth because there was like PC point-and-click adventure games, Day of the Tentacle, Full Throttle, Secret of Monkey Island, PC exclusives, right, that were just fantastic. And so I played those when I was younger. And then around 2000 or so, everything seemed to just like PC point-and-click adventure games started dying terribly on PC, so they didn't sell, so they started going away. So a lot of the types of games that I would play on PC evaporated, kind of, and it was just like first-person shooters, and they were kind of few and far between. So so it was like Half-Life and then Half-Life 2, but that gap was huge. And for a large part, like 2004 to like 2010, PC gaming, in my eyes, was World of Warcraft. And that's it. Like, you didn't play PC gaming unless it was World of Warcraft. And everything else, controller support sucked during that time on PC. Everything was keyboard and mouse exclusively. And with the advent of, like, at that time, like, PS2 and Xbox were just banging on all... PS2 more than the others. PS2 by itself was just this force to be reckoned with, right? So everything just kind of felt like it pivoted over to console. And then during the 360 generation, I was full on that. I was, like, not in PC at all. And then in 2010, when Microsoft decided that they didn't want to be in... I don't know. Whatever decision they made, when it all went to crap, is when I started going to Steam. But that was during also the time when Steam sales started coming around. So it's like, buy this, Square Enix library for $50, and I'm like, all of them? Like,
Right, yeah.
Well, okay.
Why not?
Yeah.
Twist my arm.
Yeah. So it was kind of like that for a while, and then 2010 and onward, I've just been more PC.
What about you, Rich? When we met, you were definitely like this. You were the Steam Deck guy, and so it was always seemed like it was PC for you. But before that, before the Steam Deck came out, were you still a PC gamer, or were you more of a console gamer?
I was already more of a PC gamer. I probably thanks to Carrie and Russ, I'd already transitioned to like GPD Win Max for my handheld gaming. But my arc is pretty similar to Carrie's, where like, yeah, I was full on consoles up until around really when Steam came out, right? Like, I had dabbled in PC gaming, but once Counter-Strike got its hooks in me, that was the one that really kind of pulled me over. And so like, that's also around the time that Steam came out, is the transition from CS 1.5 to 1.6, I believe. That's where it required Steam. So I'd at least been on Steam since then, and it was slim pickings from 2001, 2002 to 2010. But still, I was into the indies there. So there was Space Cam and Frozen Synapse and Gish and games like that that I would love. Right. So I would pick those up at the very least. And those were like the PC exclusives in my mind that I was like, oh yeah, I'm excited about this stuff. But go ahead. Sorry. Well, I was going to say, around 2010, that's when it started to flip more towards PC, like Carrie was saying, with the Steam sales and things like that.
See, I'm much later to this because I really didn't start until 2020, like the start of the pandemic. I was still full on console. And really, if console was not like jiving for me, I just wouldn't play any games. You know what I mean? I wasn't switching back and forth. And so there's just these lulls I have. But yeah, it was 2020 when I finally like built my own PC, which really was for emulation at the time. But then I was like, oh, I guess I can play these other modern games now. And then I just kind of kept going. So,
yep.
Nice. So Carrie kind of nailed it for me. World of Warcraft, like, that was essentially the only game on my computer for about 7 years. And then after that, it basically, my computer was for MMOs, and every other game I would play on consoles. And mostly it was Nintendo consoles, because I had the Game Boy, I had the Wii, I had the Wii U. But we didn't have enough money, because my wife and I, like, our oldest child, we already had her when we were in college. So we were living off credit cards and stuff while we were going through college. So we couldn't afford to buy an Xbox and a PlayStation and a Nintendo, whatever. And Nintendo had, Zelda and Mario and those kind of games. So that's what I would usually play, except for games like World of Warcraft or MMOs, which is what I would play on PC. But all of that kind of completely flipped once the Steam Deck came out, because I was just like, man, I can now play these games on my couch. I'm not trapped at my desk to play games, which I hate. Like, I spend a lot of time at my desk working, and I don't want to be over here when I'm not working. So I want to go sit on a couch and play games that way. and that's why I always liked console. But then I could do it with a Steam Deck, and so that drove me away from consoles. Essentially, that doesn't mean I don't like consoles. I'm still going to continue. Like, I have the Xbox, I have the PlayStation, I have the Switch. I'm buying the Switch 2 when that comes out, and I'm going to play those games as well. But PC has taken a much bigger chunk out of my gaming time in recent years, and so much more now because of the backwards compatibility. And I think this is one of the reasons why people get so invested in the PC ecosystem, is because they have that, number one, ridiculous library of games. The indies show up on Steam first because it's the easiest platform to get on. It doesn't require any like approval or anything. Like, you just put whatever game you want on there. You get constant sales, like Carrie was saying. And when you get a new PC, all of your games just run better, and you still have all of them. Whereas with consoles, they're getting away from the problem where they had before, where every generation you were like, okay, starting over.
Yep.
And that's not really the case these days. The Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible. PS5 to PS4 is mostly backwards compatible. Same with the Xbox Series to Xbox One and before. So now, like, that advantage is starting to evaporate, but not as much. What were you going to say, Rich?
I was going to say, and each of those that you just mentioned, right, like Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, they've all done backwards compatibility once or twice before, but it does feel different right now, right? Like, it feels like they're going to stick to this because they recognize that customers actually want this. I remember back, I think it was when PS3 was released, right? Because they started with more backwards compatibility and they slimmed that down through the subsequent models of the PS3. Mm-hmm. And I remember that Sony was like, yeah, people don't really use backwards compatibility as much as we thought, which may be true, but this, in all the reasons that you went through, Bill, that nailed what this report talks about. The report says that PC's advantages include a much larger library, near full backwards compatibility, the ability to multitask, early access games, which I think rings true with what you were saying about just the games coming to PC first. Also, they mentioned greater competitive capability, so the keyboard and mouse. I don't know how much that contributes to growth, personally.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely important to some people.
Yes,
but the people that it's important to, I don't think they've ever would really consider a console anyway.
So one thing I would say in there, let me chime in real quick, and something I found curious is both my son and my nephew recognize keyboard and mouse as the elite way to play games. Yeah. And I tried convincing them, but my son, for whatever reason, just had that switch in him that whatever I say is uncool, and whatever some random YouTuber says is much cooler than what I say. Yeah, but
he's right.
Yeah, like, I just found my son just playing keyboard and mouse. He's just like, I got to start doing this. Now he's sick with keyboard and mouse, and I see my nephew going in that same direction. Like, he himself, without me saying anything, he gets that same feedback loop. Mm-hmm. And so there's a younger generation that, at least from my point of view, almost has the same type of things that I had when I was growing up. Keyboard and mouse was always like, if you want precision, if you want, real stuff, you go there. So yeah, that's the only thing I would say that I've recognized and noticed myself when I take a look at all like the new stuff that's happening. And
a lot of that, right, is driven by just what are the big games, right? Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, right? Like those are the three. And Minecraft less so. Is it important to have like good aim or something like that? But there are still competitive mods, things like that. So I think just those three games, and then people just having the affordance, the ability to use the mouse and keyboard, means that you'll have more people try it, and they'll like it. I will say, I think a lot of those kids, their secondary option is not necessarily a control pad, but instead like a tablet, right? Like just aiming with touchscreen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Russ, didn't your kid beat Super Mario 64 on keyboard and mouse or something?
Yeah. Yeah. He just, I didn't even talk to him about it. I was just like, I walk in and he's like, yeah, I'm just about to finish this game. And he's just like, yeah, he's using the mouse for the camera. And then he's just, because it's a keyboard, it's only running. He's only running the entire time. You know what I mean? There may be another key that he can hit, maybe shift or something that'll force walk, but I'm not really sure. He played the whole game like that. It's kind of crazy.
That is absolutely.
Is the camera still moving?
That's got to be terrible. Like you
Yeah, I don't know. He made it work, and I mean, as I'm watching him play, I'm like, oh, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like he was making it work. It's just funny because he's got I don't know how many controllers because I just I've got so many in the house and I just cycle them through them. I'm like, hey, you need a new controller? Here's a new game, sir, or whatever. So he's got like so many options. But yeah, he chose keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, the kids know.
Yeah. The fun fact, we finally set up a family group with our Steam profiles. So now my next year's like accomplishments won't be his; it'll actually be mine.
Nice. Look at that!
I finally got that all set up. It was super easy. Like I love how
so
he just made an account, and I just added him as a family member in my group, and then that's it. Done.
Okay, I have a quick aside because that reminds me of just something that has nothing to do with anything about video games, but like the Steam replay motivated you to, set up your account, right?
Yeah.
Random, but like my Spotify Rewind was all just like lo-fi synthwave music. It's just what I play when I'm writing or when I'm working. So it was all of that. I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to stick to YouTube for my lo-fi synthwave radio, and then I'll use Spotify for like Kendrick Lamar and the artists I actually want to listen to.
Yeah, because it's almost like a mark of pride, right? You're like looking at this like, this doesn't reflect me.
Right. I'm like, who the heck is Lotus Pose? I don't know who that is. How is that my artist of the year? No, thank you.
I don't understand this. So all three of my kids, they use Spotify, even though they're all on my YouTube family plan, so they could have it for free. Plus, I subscribe to Apple One so that we can have like the backups of our phones and everything.
Yeah.
So they all have access to Apple Music as well. Yet all of them pay their own subscription to Spotify, and the reason why is because they love the stats. I could not care less about what song I listened. Like my daughter sent me a message at the when they had the Spotify whatever, and she goes, I was in the 0.001% of people that listened to Creedence Clearwater Revival, and I was like, well, that's an awesome band, and you have great taste, but why do you care about that?
Dude, that whole thing, like Microsoft really kicked the whole achievement system that they created. Yeah. They were like, let's gamify this a little bit. Let's make an achievement system. And that whole thing of like, that picture of the dude with like the little domino and then the big domino piece way down there. It's just like Microsoft makes the achievement system. It's just like people care about what they're on there. Spotify and gamification type of stuff.
They absolutely do. Back to the topic of PC gaming outperforming consoles. Do you guys see anything that consoles can really do to try and catch up? Because that gap between them is not getting smaller, it's getting bigger. PC is growing much faster than consoles are, and it's kind of leaving them behind. And as somebody who really likes to sit on a couch and play a game with a controller and not have to fight with Windows, I want the consoles to continue to do well. Rich, you got any ideas for Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony and how they can catch up?
No.
It's fair enough.
Not really. I think Nintendo, generally speaking, they have an approach that is unique, which is they are thinking of their products as toys first, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's why their products are so unique. Of course, Switch 2 is a little less so of that from what we've seen so far, but there's still maybe more that we haven't seen. So I think that they're not thinking necessarily about, the typical games experience. They're thinking about toys. So just by virtue of them having that, they have a chance. But I think everyone else, you look at Sony and Microsoft, they are just becoming more PC-like. So they're just moving to fighting in the same arena as PC gaming, whatever that means, whatever shape that takes in years to come. And I don't really know what the alternative is.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. Russ. I'll finish it off.
Yeah, I would just add like so Game Pass for me is like the first thought I had, like, oh yeah, that's a way to compete in the console space, because it is something that I find to be an inherent value, but I don't think I'm using it the way that Microsoft wants me to. I basically use it as a demo platform where I'm like, okay, this new game came out day one. I can just download it right now on my Xbox, try it out, and if I like it, then I'll wishlist it on Steam and wait for it to be $40, and then I'll buy it then. And so it's like there's been multiple
I think they're
games.
fine with that because you're giving them money every month. I think they're okay with the way you use it, Russ.
That's true. But so Indiana Jones is a great example. I started playing that game, and then I got to a point where I'm like, oh crap, I've played too much of it. Now, now I got to finish it on console instead of waiting for the PC one. Thankfully, that one has cross save, so it's actually not a big deal at all.
That is huge. We got to talk about that in a second, but yeah.
Yeah, and so like I found that even though Game Pass theoretically will just let me play the whole dang game, like I don't want to do that. I want to wait until it's on PC because then I can play it everywhere, you know. And so Game Pass is awesome and also probably an instrument of their own demise.
So it's there's a lot I need to talk about. So very quickly, I knew that the cross progression thing existed before Indiana Jones came out. I was like, oh, I even tweeted about it. Like, that's awesome. And when I played on PC, I completely forgot about it up until I basically finished the game. And then I was like, oh, right, I can do this. I wonder. And I click it, and then all of a sudden my phone's like bling, 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 bling. All of the achievements unlocked on my Xbox profile because I linked them up. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Like, I don't have to do like achievements on both. I just do it on one and it goes on both. Now, and I finished it off, so now I have like full completion on Steam and on Xbox. And that's like super awesome. Like, I friggin' love that. And if, you know, this is an Xbox and that is like a feature that is just going to be the cross progression type of thing is there, I am all for that. That's like such a nice feature to have achievement sharing between both of them. I friggin' love that. Game Pass.
Real quick. You said on Steam and on Xbox. Does the cross progression go to Steam, or is it just PC?
Steam. No, Steam. I have the Steam version of Indiana Jones. And it crossed over to the Xbox one.
I did not realize that was what you were talking about before. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's super awesome. So you can have the PC version of the game, not the Game Pass PC version, the Steam PC version, and it will cross save over, no problem. So super awesome, and saves and all the other junk. So
before you transition to the next topic, the next point that you wanted to make, I just want to put a pin in that for just a second, because that cross save thing, I think, is huge, and every single publisher should be trying to do that. But the problem that exists there, you got to have accounts for all the publishers in order for them to be able to transfer that stuff back and forth.
Right.
Because like Diablo 4 and Steam and Destiny 2 have it, but you've got to link to their third-party service instead.
So that's why Sega is doing this account system, and I bet you they will have cross progression.
Right. Yeah. So the as far as it's because it's a Bethesda title and it's a Microsoft thing, it's just it's just an Xbox button. Yeah, it's a one and done type of thing. I bought an Xbox console, an Xbox Series X, just because of Game Pass. Like, literally, same. I would have left Xbox on the side if it wasn't for Game. I would have stopped playing Xbox in general, caring, if it wasn't for Game Pass. Game Pass is the only thing that brought me back into using an Xbox at all. So the thing is that I look at Game Pass and I feel like how I'm doing it is exactly how Microsoft wants me to do it. Like, they want me to play the Game Pass version. But there's a weird dichotomy, and kind of jumping off what you said, Russ, and I'm going to finish off with why I think consoles are tapering down anyway, before winning into this digression, is I was on Robot Brush Discord, and I was like, oh, Doom Dark Ages, I can't wait to play this on Game Pass. And then someone right underneath me said, why did this game bomb? And it's like, wait, hold on. If I play it on Game Pass, and just because the sales don't show there, like, I'm looking forward to play this on Game Pass, and it's something that Microsoft wants me to do, but you're still looking at it through a sales lens.
Yeah, you can't look at...
Yeah, but everyone does that still. They're like, oh, this game's going to bomb because everyone's going to play the Game Pass version. I'm like, that is exactly what Microsoft wants.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
That's a thing that they want. So it's a weird thing that people are still kind of waffling in, like, oh, that game didn't do well because they're like, oh, they had 50 million players. Like, yeah, but the sales sucked. And it's like...
Well, also, I don't know, does Microsoft share how many people are playing on Xbox?
They share users. They share how many active users were playing the game.
But they don't share how many people. Do they do it per game on a per game basis? Like, there's 10 million people playing
They don't
Oh,
share
they
sales.
do. Okay.
They don't share sales data. They share how many people have actively played the game.
Oh, okay.
And that's a better metric, I think.
Most people hate it. Most people think of that as like kind of like sweeping it under the rug and oh, you it did poorly, so you're just saying this to make it seem better. That's generally how it it's still the mentality out there. Even though you can get to that conclusion that no, that's a good one for what Microsoft's trying to do.
Yeah.
In any event, getting back to the console thing, right? You look at Xbox, right? It had a GeForce 3 before GeForce 3 was in there. Look at Xbox 360. It had ATI's latest gen GPU in it before, like a year before it came out on PC. It was $400 with the a GPU in the future that you couldn't even get.
Yeah.
So the 360 was cheaper than you could possibly build a PC a year in advance. Like they were using super technology and then subsidizing it. And then once you had, like, you look at the MIPS processor on like PSP, the MIPS processor on PS1, they were using very specific architectures. You had like the Super Nintendo was using an upgraded chip of the 6502. So the Genesis was the Motorola 68K. You had all of these very unique types of chips that were almost game centered. They did game centered things, and PCs at the time did not do it as well. So consoles always existed in a space where they could be cheaper than a PC and do better than a PC. And that's where console really shined. Mm-hmm. And funnily enough, when we talk about like how the backwards compatibility thing is now starting to be a bigger focus, at the same time, they've achieved that by going to x86 and regular GPUs from AMD, right, which is also on a PC. And so to gain that easier method to have backwards compatibility, the double-edged sword of that part of it is that they are now very comparable to PC parts. And now you, like, even the PS5 Pro, you're like, well, if I could spend like $900 and get something better on PC, and it's $200 more than a PS5 Pro, it becomes this like easier delineation between understanding what's different. Where if you look at a 360, it's like, oh, next gen GPU and it's PowerPC CPU. That, I think, is largely the difference. And then, because I think all of us are like biased towards handhelds, but Switch on handheld was, like Nintendo merging their handheld line with their console line, obviously was a stupendous success. Like, they are banging on all cylinders, and having the Wii U fail, being able to port over all those games that no one paid that were amazing, it just made them seem like unreal good. Like, if you take a look at the track record of the Switch, it just looks like, if you take a look at what like PS4 and PS5 did and Xbox, you're like, man, what were you guys doing? Nintendo carried you guys this entire time. Yeah, so I don't know. For me, I think that's what it was. It's always the value perspective and the like, kind of like, how can you equate this to that? And now that's becoming shrunk, and also the rising cost of just newer nodes is very expensive. Yeah. So, like when PS5 Pro was $700 without the disk drive, people were like, whoa, I was expecting $600. A lot of people were expecting like $550. So going to $700 was also a shocker. So yeah,
just a couple things on the price thing, right? So one of the advantages that the report lists as existing advantage for PC is one that would be confusing, I think, to a lot of people. It says lower entry price point than consoles and higher top range of performance than high performance consoles. And I think people undervalue how much, like, actually getting your PC to be a gaming PC, how cheap that actually is, right? Like, obviously, dollar for dollar, performance to value ratio, you get a better value in consoles. But my son just has a hand-me-down laptop, and that's what he plays Roblox on, right? Like, and that is what so many people are doing, I think. So that lower entry price point is important, especially as much as we just in these last, 33 minutes have talked about sales, talked about resistance to price. And by the way, one of the things that this report also points out is that they want publishers, they want Rockstar or Take-Two to release GTA 6 at $80 to $100, publishers do, so that people get used to a higher price and other game prices can go up.
Yeah, but they also, in that slideshow, they also say, you know what? If they do, then people are just going to pirate things more. Like they say that in the report that people are very resistant to increases in price, and the $60 to $70 increase in price feels like it just happened. Like it feels like it's not done happening yet. That $60 to $70, and then to go from 70 to 100. Excuse me, but screw you. That is way too much money. And I'm not a GTA guy. I don't really like Rockstar games. I don't like the way that they control. I don't dislike the studio Rockstar games. I don't really like the games that they make, if that makes sense. And there's a pretty low chance that I'll spend $70 on GTA 6. There is a less than 0% chance that I will spend over $100 on it. And I think that they know that they can get that money just by putting stupid pack-ins. And, they'll have a tier at $70, and they'll also have a tier at $80 that includes, I don't know, a pair of sunglasses, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So the price thing for the interesting thing, and I think one of the advantages for PC as well, and one of the reasons why you see so many people moving over to PC, is that the regional pricing on Steam, especially what Valve recommends pricing to be, is kind of automatic. They're like, hey, you just press this button and we'll set prices accordingly for each region for you. Not everyone does that. They kind of do whatever it is in the US, just make that in Argentina. And then Argentina people are like, ahoy, matey.
Right.
But if you price it to Argentina prices, correct, then they start buying it.
Yeah.
And so that's another factor that I don't know if they're including in that, but the regional pricing that is not for everything, but does exist on Steam is another factor why I think a lot of people are moving to PC as well.
I also think that the thing that Rich is saying, though, that if GTA 6 comes out at $100, then all these other publishers will feel like, okay, we can raise our price because they've made a new
threshold.
Well, I mean, they did
threshold. They've hit a new threshold, and we're okay with that. Okay, we can do that. And I do agree that there are probably plenty of publishers out there that do that, that think that. I just personally think it's a huge mistake.
Isn't Doom Dark Ages the early access super awesome premium edition $100?
Right, but that's early access. We're just talking base game.
Right, but I mean, there's, you have $70 for the base game. You can play it 2 days early for $30 more. That $100 price point is, I agree with you that GTA 6 as a base $100 is Neo Geo pricing.
Right.
It's like, it's too rich for my blood. I'll go right back to my 8-year-old self, just being in an electronics boutique and just I can't afford this.
Right. When we talk about this article, the thing that jumps to mind for me, the last thing that I want to say on this article, is that this feels like an advertisement for Freemont. For the people who haven't been paying attention, Freemont is Valve's rumored console. And if there was a console that has all of the advantages of PC without the disadvantages of console, I mean, that thing's going to fly off shelves, I think. And I think that this article basically says all of the reasons why Valve wants to ship a set-top box. What do you think about that, Russ?
Well, I think that part of the reason why PC gaming is doing so well is because they've gotten away from the living room. You think about a standard family household. They've got one TV, one main TV, right? And, what if somebody wants to watch Netflix or whatever? This is where being able to play a game at your desk or playing a game on a Steam Deck, all that kind of comes into play, And so, I don't know. I don't see a console style PC ever really kind of outpacing things like the PS5 or the Xbox or anything like that, because it's a harder nut to crack, and I feel like it's also more casual. I don't want to use the word casual, but it's a more kind of everyday demographic, and a PC that you use as a console in your living room is a little bit of a bridge too far, where it's that sounds like a little bit of work. Like, I just know how PS5 works. Let's do that. And so that's my worry, is that it may not be a runaway success, except for like people like us who just want to have that option in the living room. And I think we're a minority.
So I'm somewhere between you two. I don't consider it something that will be a runaway success, but I also don't think it has to be, right? Like, nor the Steam Deck, right? Like, the Steam Deck has sold, let's say, 5 million units. That's not a lot compared to consoles, right? But it's just PC continuing to grow bigger, right? Like, it doesn't need to be 30 million. If it does even a couple million, that's just more new people that game on PC, which is what growth actually means, right? It's not, we're not going to buy more games by and large. We have too many games as it is. So the only way for the market to grow is for users to come in. And so if Fremont can do that, even if it's just by 1 million, 2 million, that is substantial for Valve.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem that Valve has, and I don't know if they even care, is the distribution and just line of sight, right?
Stores.
Yeah, if Steam Deck was in stores, I think Steam Deck would have sold a lot more. And Steam Deck only being on Steam outside of, like, the Japanese online store that you could buy it from, I don't know. I think that they probably had a bigger sell-through rate. So Fremont, I would anticipate being the same thing, especially if it's going to be the whole combo dealy thing, where it's like, the Steam Controller 2, Fremont, and Deckard, and it's all this, like, whatever thing. But you also look at, like, I think everyone is, when they look at PS5 Pro, their expectations were sky high, and then they came, like, halting, crashing back down. And you go back and look at PS4 visuals, and the difference between, like, Xbox 360 and PS4 was vast. Was just a ginormous graphical leap in fidelity. And going from PS4 to PS5 wasn't. And likewise to PS5 Pro was not as well. And that's where, like, the Switch 2 is going to be, like, coming into the PS4 territory, where on the handheld in a mainstream way. So then there's a really interesting, where is graphics now good enough, right? And there's Unreal 5 that will just destroy machines. Like, you can have a 4090 or a 5090, and you play Wukong at 4K with max settings, and you're going to get 30 FPS without any type of fake frames. So that is not great, right? Like, you're just only hitting 30 FPS on a monster GPU. The Halo product of PCs. That's what are you getting out of that? Is Wukong, I don't know, 8 times better than a PS4? I mean, like, if you look at God of War 1 and compare it to Wukong, and it's like,
2018, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, even God of War, like, Horizon Zero Dawn, both of those games, right? They just look phenomenal. Killzone Shadowfall, or whatever, the PS4 launch title.
The 2-1.
That look, Rise Son of Rome on the Xbox One looked amazing. Yeah. That looked fantastic. And I'm still wondering how that machine pulled it off, because that was terrible. That machine was awful. And what they did on there was amazing. So, yeah, it's like that generation, we feel like we're stuck in that graphical fidelity. And Unreal Engine 5 is this unwieldy beast that no one knows how to take control of, and everyone's moving over. The only difference is, like, with id Tech. The id Tech is our savior that Microsoft owns, and is like, I guess we'll use it for, like, 3 games. Let's go Unreal Engine 5, the thing that we don't own.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, speaking of Xbox, since you brought it up, let's take not too long to talk about this, but the Xbox Developer Direct showed off 4 games.
5.
Those 5 games?
2 Ninja Gaidens.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I didn't count Ninja Gaiden. Was it Black, right?
2, yeah.
What are you guys saying? You guys are saying Ninja Gaiden.
I say Ninja Gaiden.
I don't know what that means.
You say Gaiden.
Ninja Gaiden. Yeah. I don't know what's the. Wait,
from the
we got a linguist with us. How do you say it, Russ?
I don't know if it's right. I say Ninja Gaiden.
Well, he says it different than both of the ways that I was thinking.
Yeah, I say Gaiden. So I say
Gaiden.
For the longest time, I used to say Ryu, and then only changed it to Ryu later on. And I have to, like, self-correct myself.
Yeah, I went through that arc. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everybody in the chat down below, I want you all to tell us the correct pronunciation of Ninja Gaiden, Ninja Gaiden, or Ninja Gaiden,
Gaiden.
because
Dude.
none of us know.
Can we just take a step back for a second? Were we all there during the Nintendo days? 8 years
Hell
old,
yes.
10 years old. Ninja Gaiden 1, the cutscene, the
yeah.
intro cutscene.
Yes.
Come on,
It has
tell
story.
me that
Yeah.
It goes
Beautiful.
Yeah.
letterbox.
Dude.
It goes letterbox,
Beautiful.
and you're like, whoa,
dude, that entire segment, I was glued. I was just like, and it's like, I don't know how you could convey so much meaning. They're like, and they come back
they
down, and then
They
the
had
sad
an officially.
music.
Yeah, they had an officially licensed novel of it that was distributed in. You remember those like not game, but like the book sales they used to have. You get a little pamphlet, you take it home, be like, "Mom, can I get one of these books?"
Right.
So they had one of those, and it was Ninja Gaiden, like the story of it.
Wow.
And you could buy it, and my friend had it, and I read it, and it was only like 30 pages or whatever, but it was the story of the cutscene, and I was like, "There's so much here, it's amazing." And then you play the game, and it's like, "Where is all this?" But,
So real quick, I want to say, I don't know if this would be included, but I saw a story the other day about this online video game historian project that they are about to launch. I saw it over on Blue Sky, and they basically, it has like tons and tons of old gaming magazines and stuff like that. I wonder if it would be included in that. I'll try and find a link and put it in the show notes because I can't remember it off the top of my head. But I saw it and I was like, oh, that seems cool. And they're launching this, whatever this project is, soon. So I thought that was very cool.
Nice.
Back to the Xbox Direct.
Yes. Okay. So I don't remember what order they were in, but let's start with Ninja Gaiden. So since we already are talking about that, wow, this game looks really cool. I'll be real bad at it. Holy cow, it's gross. There's so much blood everywhere. Are any of you guys really excited for it? Oh, Russ is sending. Oh, Russ just sent me a link to an Amazon thing. I'll put that for the book in the description.
Yeah,
so
it's
you guys
called
can
Worlds
find
of Power. There was a whole series of it. It was in like 1990. Yeah.
Very
sorry.
cool. Yeah. No, that's okay. All right, Russ, are you excited for Ninja Gaiden, or are you like, that's not for me?
I've never really liked the modern era of these games because of the difficulty spike. It's just a lot for me, and it's just too much. And so I've tried them, mostly the demos and stuff, and I'm like, oh, it's at a level beyond my skill. And so I've just kind of accepted that this is a game that's amazing that I may not play. But who knows? Maybe there's some accessibility settings that I can tweak and make it playable. For me.
It will be on game. All of these games will be on Game Pass, so you'll be able to try them out without paying any money.
Sigma 2 is already on Game Pass.
Yeah,
so you gotta get it.
2 Black.
Two
Ninja
Black,
Gaiden 2 Black, which is
It's
the
not
new
Black
Ninja.
2?
Apparently not. It's Ninja Gaiden 2 Black.
Ninja 2 Gaiden Black?
Right.
3?
Same difference.
Yes, exactly.
You said what I said.
Exactly. All right. So, real quick, I am excited. I'm trying to figure out how excited I am because I love Ninja Gaiden Black or 1 or whatever, right? Like the OG Xbox One. I love it. I love Ninja Gaiden 2. I didn't really play Ninja Gaiden 3. Reason being, Team Ninja, like Itagaki left Team Ninja, right? And he was the person for Dead or Alive and Ninja Gaiden. Likewise, I should be excited for Ninja Gaiden 4 because not just Team Ninja, but Platinum is working on this.
Yeah.
And I love Platinum.
You're a huge Platinum fan.
Yes.
Yeah,
However,
you have to be, yeah.
However, Platinum is also no longer Platinum, right? Like Kamiya left. Sorry, I'm forgetting the Resident Evil Mikami-san left. So like Platinum is not really Platinum anymore. It's just, I don't know who it is anymore. So I am cautiously excited. I would like to see what this is going to play like. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, I will probably just buy it because I don't have a version of Ninja Gaiden 2 anymore. I had it on Xbox 360 and my 360 got fried with the Red Ring of Death, so I never picked it back up. So even though it did come to PC later on, but this is supposed to be the better version. It takes the best of the original Ninja Gaiden 2, the one from 360, and Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2 from PS3 and beyond, and melds them into the best version that we've seen so far, apparently.
Listen, Team Ninja, you got to figure out your naming scheme. I don't know what, like, there's Sigma, there's Black, there's 2, it's confusing.
It's
Carrie,
really confusing.
are
Itagaki
you
was a
hyped
vibe.
for this?
Yeah, yeah. I just remember Itagaki was always imposing on me. Like, I always just saw pictures of him and just look like
He looks like a badass.
Yeah, like it was hilarious. But I always I had a bunch of respect for him. The Ninja Gaiden series from the Nintendo. So there's I believe it's in like TV tropes. I believe it is. Anyway, there's a thing called Nintendo Hard. There's an idea of Nintendo Hard that there is Battletoads type of difficulty, Ghosts and Goblins type of difficulty, where you took an arcade game that was meant to be continued to play by quarters, and they transferred over to the home console and didn't give you quarters and just gave you a set amount of lives and said, finish it. And it was like, whoa. So like Ninja Gaiden 1 I beat, and like I would like face melting want to rip my face off. Like you jump and there'd be a hawk and you'd slice it and jump back,
hawks.
And you're like, oh, glad I got him. And then you jump again and he just spawn again. You're like, oh, yep. And then you die and then it'd be like game over. And then you just like, oh, and then you just take a step away and leave. But that type of thing is like when you get to the boss and then die, you get to the boss, like the final boss, right? Like you play the game so often that it just becomes rote memorization, where you just become this, like, you become a death merchant, right? It's just like you're just running perfectly, jumping and slicing your sword at nothing, but you know a hawk is going to spawn. And it becomes that level of like how ingrained everything was. But that was when games were few and far between when I was young. And I had one game that had to last a while and I would come back to it. So when the 360 version and the Xbox version came out, I was all about them, but it had this level of difficulty that I was not ready to lock in for. It's not that I don't appreciate the difficulty, it's just that there is too much for me to play that I can't. It's the same thing as like my backlog type of mentality. Like, am I going to get this new game when I have all these games I haven't played yet? And it's like when I play like that, it's like it has to be. I'm a Ninja Gaiden fan, but I'm not like 10 out of 10 Ninja Gaiden fan. Like, so that's where I stand on it. I really love that it is as difficult as it is, because it should be, because I remember what it was like. And that is a thing that you have to do. That if someone told me, like, if you just were walking through the street, be like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, I beat Battletoads, I would stop in my tracks and be like, whoa. Let's have a conversation about this. Like
beat
that
Battletoads?
Yeah. Please explain. Yeah, like that type of thing. Like, it's even if achievements don't exist, if you just said that out loud, it's going to make me stop in my tracks and take note.
I would be 1,000 times more hyped for this game if it were a 2D game instead of a 3D game. If it were like the original Ninja Gaiden games. I'm trying to say it like Russ because I think he's probably
did a good job.
the rightest. The rightest? Okay.
Same difference.
We should talk to a linguist about that one.
Yeah. It's got a grammarist on
it. Like that's what I would love, which was why I'm very excited to see what Sega brings with Shinobi.
Oh,
they're like their new Shinobi game. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
All right, so that's Ninja Gaiden. Then we also had, and I just closed it because I'm a big dummy. We also had South of Midnight.
That looks awesome.
I think I am so torn on this game because I know that you can turn it off, but I cannot stand animation. The way that they have it looking like stop motion. It just distracts the hell out of me. And if you had said to me, hey, Bill, what if we made this cool game and like this third-person action-adventure game and everything looks like stop motion, I would have been like, hell yes, pump that into my veins. That sounds amazing. And then every time I see this game, their art
Take it
style
out of my veins.
Looks awesome. Yes, I'm like, no, get that out of here. I don't want it. That's awful. Somebody told me that apparently you can turn that setting off, which if that's the case, that's probably how I'll play. Rich, what do you think about that visual style?
So it looks a little jarring for South of Midnight, I'll admit, but there's another game, I'm not going to remember the name, maybe one of you will. There's another game, like it's like a high profile, like prestige indie that's coming out, I want to say this year, that also uses stop motion. It's sort of like this coming of age adventure, and it has that same like 80s
oh, is it the one where it's like there's a mixtape on the cover, right?
Yeah, that sounds correct. It's one of those, right? And that the trailer for that seemed to pull off that like stop motion look really well. So I think there's potential for that. I'd have to see it like face to face, I think.
But that game's not an action game though, is it?
It looks more like an adventure game, to be fair. Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
Which that's the thing is this is an action game. I'm sorry, I interrupted. What were you saying?
No, I was just gonna say
it's mixtape, I think.
It's actually called Mixtape. That's right.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Yeah. Who's published that? That sounds like Annapurna. I feel like Annapurna's publishing that.
I don't know.
It is
the
Mixtape.
article I pulled up doesn't show who
it is Mixtape, and it is published by Annapurna. So yeah, they have the same not same, but similar stop motion style. For this game in particular, like it looks competent. I just don't know what to be excited about yet. Like it just it's one of those where I'm waiting and seeing, right? Like once it comes out, what do the reviews look like? If I get a chance to play it, what does it play like? Right now, it just seems like I probably have this game somewhere in my library. That's kind of what it feels like. Going back to Carrie's thing about like your backlog, like I feel like I have this somewhere.
So I really like this art style. It reminds me of Coraline, the movie, you know? And so I like the idea of playing a game like that. It's a novel idea. And so, I'm in for it with the art direction. I like it. I just hope it's not like a predictable kind of style game where it's the same thing we've been playing, you know, all these times, third-person adventure game or whatever. So we'll see about that.
Yeah, I mean, that is what it is. It's a third-person adventure game, probably with some RPG elements where you get some points and you level up because it's all like, you get 3 types of weapons. You get like a spool, a spindle, I don't know the difference between a spool and a spindle, and then like these crochet hooks or something as your weapons. And so, you know, you put your points into the thing that you like the most, and I'm going to pump up this ability. So it is the same game that we keep getting over and over, though I do like those games.
Yeah, there was one game that I was excited for. And to be fair, it makes it easier because of Game Pass, right? Because it's a Game Pass game. And if you have Game Pass, you're like, well, I'm definitely going to try it out. And that's the same thing I did with Flintlock. Flintlock
I was about to bring that game up. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So it was a game that I was looking forward to because when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then when I started playing it, I'm like, this is Dark Souls paint by numbers. And I could feel it. Like there was just like the story that they had there. Again, I'm really critical. Like I could care less about whatever exposition you have. Your game has to sell me on how good it is to play it before you should start giving me any story beats. And it was just like, here are all these story beats of people you don't know, and it wasn't really selling me on anything. So I was just like, skip. Let's see how this game plays. And it was it was fine. It was fine and completely average. And if I was like a Dark Souls like type of fan, I would play that, but it's just like I prefer Dark Souls games because Dark Souls games are like vastly devoid of story. Like you have to look at the environmental storytelling, and there's like one person that says something absolutely cryptic, and you're like, "What? All right, I'll go that way now."
I would like to recommend Lies of P as probably the only like really good non From Software.
You know what's
Souls-like.
You know what's funny about that? I played Lies of P, and there, it's almost you can feel it. It's textural when you're playing it. That there's a level of finesse put in from the game developer side that it becomes a joy to play. And Flintlock was just like, do this, do that. Here's this situation, do this situation, and it was just a very, very. And it's probably very harsh, but it was a very paint by numbers type of affair, and I just dropped it because I just stopped caring.
Yeah.
Moving on to the third game that they announced, and that is Claire Obscure Expedition 33, which is a turn-based
Looks
RPG.
awesome.
Oh my god! It screams like these people looked at Persona and they said, I really like how they do weird menus. Let's do weird menus in our game. And it looks really cool.
Even like the world map type of traversal stuff, I was like, yes. Like, I didn't know that before. We had seen like some snippets of gameplay like a year ago.
Yep.
And it was like, oh, that looks really cool. And then we see more of it going on, and the whole developer direct thing of like going into it was really super nice. But yeah, it's definitely the closest approximation that I can feel of, remember when you played Super Nintendo JRPGs? Let's just do that, but like modern. And it didn't feel like, they were trying to do anything new. They were just like, here's JRPG, here's modern, cram it together, out you go. And it's not like 2D HD. It's a full on, here's a 3D modern game, but with all the trappings of old JRPGs.
And if you don't like turn-based combat, the turn-based combat also has real-time elements in it. So like, if you've played Super Mario RPG or Mario and Luigi, when you attack, it'll bring up like a little button prompt, and if you hit that at the right time, you get bonus damage. Or when you get attacked, if you hit a button at the right time, you can prevent the damage. Kind of like bringing, bonus damage and parrying into a turn-based game, and it works really well in a lot of those games. So I'm excited to see it there because it's a little more interactive. I think that I love that, like, of the 3 games that we've talked, well, 2 of the games that we talked about, they're like new IP. It's not the same stuff. It's the same game, but it's not the same IP, and that I really like that. Russ, are you interested in this turn-based RPG?
Yeah, I just watched the trailer and it looks good. Like, I'm knee deep in Final Fantasy 16, so I'm like comparing everything against it. And I think visually, I like the battle, like the way that it looks on this one better than on Final Fantasy 16. But I do love the just button mashingness of the 16 right now. But the idea of having real time elements, like Sea of Stars did that recently. I do like that. But man, this title is so dumb. Like, Claire Obscure, where are the E's? And then what is Expedition 33? Like,
those are the E's, the 33. They took them in.
Yeah, this is going to be a hard game to talk about in the future because people are like, what game is this? Claire Obscure? How do you spell that? Like, oh,
yeah, they went through and explained where the name comes from in the developer direct. And if you need to explain it, then I think you need a better title, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That said, oh man, one thing that really struck me, who's the guy that did the Justice League movie?
Joss Whedon? No.
What was his name? Zack Snyder.
Yeah, Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder.
The direct felt like Zack Snyder directed it because it was like slow-mo shot, slow-mo shot, slow-mo. It was so many slow-mo shots. And by the end, I was just like, holy cow, are you kidding me with this? Relax with the slow-mo shot. Your camera has more than one setting. Anyway, that's completely beside the point. Rich, are you excited for this game?
No,
interested?
No, it looks really stylish, and so hopefully it's good. But this goes back to the backlog thing. RPGs, they're going to be so long, and there's so many personas and metaphors I haven't played yet so this would have to already like leapfrog Atlas developed RPGs because those are already, I really want to play those.
Right.
So this would have to leapfrog that in terms of like reviews, people saying it's good. So it looks great. And especially this is something that I feel like Microsoft hasn't had enough of in the last few years. So it's good to see it just spotlight it even.
I do really like what they did. Like Microsoft with this direct, they showed something for everybody.
Yeah.
All right. The thing that I'm most excited for.
Clearly.
Doom.
Hell yeah.
Doom. Holy cow. This game looks amazing, although they saved it to the end. And I have to admit, I was sitting on the couch and I did doze off. And I woke up and I was watching the Nintendo podcast because it had come on afterwards because it was on TV. And I was like, what's going on? I thought I was watching the Xbox Direct and I was very confused. But Doom the Dark Ages looks fantastic and I cannot wait for this game. Carrie, I know that you're hyped for it.
Yeah.
Talk about this game.
So if you were to take a look at the whole history of how Doom was coming around, I don't know if you recall, before Doom 2016, there was a leak of Doom coming out that it was going to mirror a lot of what Call of Duty was going to be. And everyone was like, oh, great, they're going to ruin Doom. And I have a feeling like at that moment they pivoted because what wound up coming out was a faithful recreation of what people actually wanted from Doom in Doom 2016. So the sentiment flipped completely. Everyone was amped up about it. And it was kind of very similar to how Doom, you would imagine Doom would be. And then Doom Eternal came out and it cranked it up where it was like, you cannot stand still and live. You need to keep moving.
Yeah.
It became like acrobatics got into it. There was like a grappling hook and all the other stuff. So you're just like moving. And then Dark Ages, you get a shield and it's like, no, you are not even going to run and gun or move. You're going to stand your ground and battle. And I'm just like, even the little flourishes. If you take a look at the little guy, he mimics how old Doom is. So you can see him like look left and he grimaces when he gets hit. So it's just, I love what they're doing insofar as trying to like innovate in that stuff. And then you can pilot mechs and dragons. And this whole Dark Ages fantasy thing is like, oh man, straight out of like a heavy metal comic from old.
100%.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just between the Shield and all the other stuff that's going on there. I did not think I would like look forward to Doom with a shield as much as I do, and I'm crazy looking forward to this game.
What about you, Rich?
It was, I don't know if you guys remember, Nerd Nest Awards. It was my most anticipated game of 2025, easily. Yeah, this is at the top of my list. So it is a prequel to Doom 2016. One of the things I'm actually excited about is that there is no multiplayer, right? So I would have been excited about multiplayer too, but I'm more excited that they're devoting those resources to the single player campaign. And yeah, just like Carrie said, they went through this arc. I want to say, but now I forget his name. John, not Romero, Carmack. Sorry. Carmack was still involved, I want to say, with that Doom that was like Call of Duty. But then you're right. They pivoted and they went to, what they did eventually with Doom 2016. And then Doom Eternal borrowed like a lot from like Devil May Cry. And now, in a way, this almost feels like Bayonetta 3, right? Like where now you're piloting mechs and dragons and things like that. You have these like huge set pieces, but they're still focusing on that like moment-to-moment gameplay. And like I love that the trailer focused on like the combat, so like the parries and things like that. I will say, I feel like, even though, Bill, you're right, this developer direct had something for everybody, I feel like Microsoft / Xbox may be starting to like, if they key in on what they did in this direct, they may be starting to key in on what their new identity is, which is like Sony focuses a lot on these like big cinematic things. And I felt like this direct was very like gameplay heavy. Dark Ages, the RPG, and Ninja Gaiden. It was really just, we're going to focus on the gameplay.
I just wish that the gameplay lasted for more than half a second before they cut to the next thing. Like, it's just like gameplay, but you don't really get to see anything because then they cut to another section of gameplay, which is fine. They are showing gameplay, which I applaud them for, because every time I watch a trailer and I'm like, this doesn't show me what the game is like. That's what I want to know. I want to know what the game plays like. I don't want to know about the lore of the game. I want to see how I will actually interact with these characters, with this world, and almost nobody shows that off. And they showed a lot of gameplay. So, I mean, you got to give props to them. Russ, are you interested in Doom the Dark Ages, or is it something that you'll probably end up passing on?
I am. I think I will actually probably play this one more. Like, I never really got very far in the first two reboots of Doom. But this one feels more my pace, more my style. I like the idea of having a shield and stuff. And, there's, he's like using it as a frisbee and stuff. Like, all that stuff looks pretty cool. So I think they did a good job. And the gameplay thing is just like, hey, look at how fun these games are to play. Like, they show that in each of them. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that, in a weird way, I want to just touch on real quick, is there was like moments where it felt like old Doom. And the only reason I would say it feels like old Doom, like back in the day Doom, was more because I was not using WASD to move around. I was always using the cursor keys. So I moved around like terribly. And as a result, I was moving extremely slow and kind of just taking in everything. So whenever there'd be like the Cacodemon, or, you'd have the Cyber Spider, when you had, it was a set piece. Like it would like lower down, and you'd be like, "Oh damn!" And I felt like there was a lot more one-on-one, and in a weird way, there was like bullet hell, like shmup type of things going on, because you saw like waves of stuff that he was like dodging in between of. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of like how much they slowed the game down, and it got a lot of vibes for me where they were like leaning on other stuff. I don't know. I'm super looking forward to it.
I think.
And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, interestingly, like the Doom 1 to Doom 2016 and then Doom 2 to Doom Eternal, like parallels are real, right? Like Doom 1 was very much focused on like this brooding atmosphere and like very intense but small battles. And then Doom 2 was just like throw the gauntlet, throw everything but the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
And that's what Doom Eternal felt like. So maybe this is also, you know, this iteration of id, this is their first opportunity to do something that it doesn't have an analog in the past.
Yeah. And all of these games are not just on Xbox. They're also on PC. I think all of them are also coming to PlayStation.
I'm pretty sure yes, that is true.
I want to say I saw
I know
South
that
of
Doom
Midnight?
is.
I don't know if South of Midnight is.
I think it was South
Ninja
of Midnight
Gaiden and
that it
Doom
say.
on their website, they say are coming to PS5. The other
Right.
two, they do not say it, at least from
Okay.
Xbox. So
Expedition 33, I'm pretty sure is PS5 as well.
And I almost guarantee we'll see these on Switch too as well.
I would imagine, definitely I would imagine so. I would say yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, let us know in the comments section down below if you're watching this over on YouTube. Like which of these games, these 4 games from the Xbox Developer Direct for 2025, are you most excited about? And if you're listening to this in your favorite podcast app, then head over to youtube.com/nerdnest and check it out. All right. I've been promising this for a couple of weeks that we would talk about CD key shops. For me, there is like 3 CD key shops that I trust because those are the only ones that I have experience with. Humble Bundle, which I love. I use Humble Bundle all the time. I subscribe to Humble Choice. That's where most of my games come from in my Steam library. Good Old Games. And then, Green Man Gaming. And then Fanatical. Those are the 3 ones that I use on a regular basis. Rich, what CD key shops do you use on a regular basis, or which ones do you think people need to know to avoid because it's so scary out there? You can get your credit card stolen, you can get your account shut down if you end up buying from the wrong people.
Got it. So if all you want to know is like which stores you should buy from, I recommend going to gg.deals and disabling key shops. They call them key shops. And so I'll from here on out, I'll refer to them as key shops. And key shops are not all necessarily scammy to the consumer. Like the consumer, it's a good deal and they are often legit keys, right? So it is very much a gray market, not a black market, right? So the problem with it is with those key shops is that they don't work with the developer at all. So in no way do they work with the developer. Often they skirt that regional pricing that Kerry was, bigging up before earlier in this episode. So they skirt that by, being able to buy from one region at a lower price and then selling in another region for a higher price. So taking advantage of that arbitrage. But that's not the only way they work. There's a variety of key shops and they work kind of in varying ranges of maybe shadiness, let's say, but I would classify it as gray market. Now, indie developers, I'm not going to talk about AAA developers because, who cares, right? But indie developers overwhelmingly do not like key shops, and they would go as far, many of them, not all of them, many of them that I've heard would go as far as to say they'd rather you pirate than use these key shops because these developers have to support the game that you bought from a key shop, even though they don't get, the same revenue from it. And they have to now kind of figure out, like, if now you are looking for a chargeback because you got scammed, it wasn't a valid key, now they have to deal with that. They'd really just rather you pirate. At least that's what I've heard from developers of games like Action Hank and Rami. I believe Rami Ishmael has also repeated that.
I am very sad right now because 2 days ago, sometime recently, I don't remember when, I did not go to gg.deals and I bought Dynasty Warriors Origin for full price. And I just went to gg.deals when you said it, and it is $60. And I'm like, damn it!
Always go to GG Deals.
Yeah, always.
Yes. By the way, I'm really having fun with Dynasty Warriors Origin, but I don't know if we have time to talk about, our gameplay this week. Carrie, What are the other than gg.deals, which websites do you like to go to that we haven't mentioned yet?
So GG.deals is going to kind of point you to all the big ones, but the bigger key shops that so the ones that do have support are like Green Man Gaming, Fanatical. These ones are directly working with publishers and they get keys from them, so they are working with them and then doing coupons. And then you have gray market ones that I do like, which are CD keys, and they will be in different regions in like Europe, and they'll buy the boxed physical version that have a key inside. They'll just get that, and used to be back in the old days, you would almost get like an image of what was scratched off in the physical box. Like that's what you would get as an email after they validated the payment. So they are buying the game, and there's not going to be any problem for you with the game afterwards. So CD Keys is one of my favorite gray market sellers, and they just literally do what Rich had mentioned. But then Fanatical and Green Man Gaming, I bought Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for $38 with all of their deals. Super happy with it. I have it installed on my living room Windows PC, my new PC console. So I'm going to probably be playing it there first. So that is, those are the ones that I go to.
Very cool. Russ, or do you typically just buy from the actual stores?
I do often just, wait for Steam sales, and then I'll look at like Humble bundles and like grab those and get some games from that. But I will say that I did sign up for Green Man Gaming recently, mostly for Final Fantasy Rebirth, which I got for I think like $38 or whatever. But the tip I have is that if you are going to do Green Man Gaming, sign up for their XP program. And so this is like their, just their user program, whatever. And you can like level up into different tiers. And I think it's bronze tier or whatever. Once you get into bronze tier, it unlocks a lot of those discounts and stuff. And what you can do is you can just spend $2 to buy the XP to get you to that tier. And then when you do that, it gives you a $2 in-store coupon to use.
Oh, nice.
So you're really not spending any money as long as you're going to buy the game afterwards. So I did that for Final Fantasy, where it would have been, like $46 or whatever. I bought the XP, used that, and then ended up getting it for like $38 or something. And so definitely, like if you are going to go the Green Man Gaming route, like look into that XP offers thing, because that was like super handy. But it was a little bit of a workaround to get it working, but definitely worth it. And it never expires. So now that I'm at that tier, I will have that forever. So that was worth those $2. And then other thing is...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, good.
Well, I was just going to say, I actually like that feature better than what they do over at Humble Bundle, because with Humble Choice, you can kind of do that level up thing, and then you get a discount on any games you buy from them. But if you stop, like if you cancel... If you pause your subscription, thank you. That's the thing. Because you can just say, I don't want it this month because none of the games in Humble Choice I want. You lose that... that level of discount that you get on games that you buy directly from them. Sorry, I interrupted. What were you saying, Russ?
No, that makes sense. The other thing I was going to pivot to, just another tip, was that if you're an Amazon Prime member, they have like Amazon Prime games or whatever. And every month or every quarter or so, they will just give you a list of games that you can just get a free code to redeem on either Epic Game Store or GOG. I never do the Epic Game Store ones just because I never get around to actually using any of those games. But the GOG ones is super simple. You just log into your Amazon account, you click on the link, and then it'll take you to GOG. You then redeem it, and then now that game is in your library. And you can do several of them, and pretty high-profile games will show up. And so that's a cool way of just, if you're already an Amazon Prime member, just to get free games on GOG.
And GOG's DRM free, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so this will be particularly good if you're like messing around with like WinLater, which is like the Amazon Windows kind of thing, or not Amazon, Android Windows thing that you can make. Those usually like work the best with GOG games, so it's like a really good option if you want to experiment with games and stuff to get them for free and mess around.
Speaking of which, didn't you just put out a video about running Windows games on Android?
I did. It was another app called Pluvia, which is basically, it is running WinLater, but it's tailored for Steam. So essentially all you have to do is just, download this app, log into your Steam profile. It'll show your games. You can then download them and play them through WinLater directly through that profile. Most games won't work. Like it's something you just kind of experiment about. But once you get one game to work, you're like, holy crap, this was all like free, basically, that I'm now able to play this game, this PC game on my Android device. And so once you get one game working, it's kind of worth it. But until then, it can be kind of a headache to mess around and try to find all this out.
And so the people who are watching or listening, where can they find that video?
on Retro Game Core's YouTube channel, CORPS.
There you go. What were you going to say, Carrie?
So the one thing that I want to piggyback on, something that Rich said, but I do want to highlight and reiterate, Rich had mentioned chargebacks that devs don't want to deal with. Should be noted that a lot of the key shops that are total like black market garbage, they, number one, make it much more difficult for content creators to reach out to these people because a lot of them will just mass email masquerading as a lot of content creators, even high profile ones, to try to get free keys from developers. And then they just sell those keys that they were giving out. So now a lot of indie devs don't even like look at stuff. They like, I don't want to even deal with this. So it makes content creators' lives worse. But even if you didn't care about that, right? Like, oh, who cares? The other thing is that if they're selling their game on other platforms, a lot of these places will use bogus credit cards, like stolen credit cards, buy the games, get the key, and then it becomes a chargeback that happens to that reseller. So then the reseller has a chargeback that needs to then cancel out the key. Meanwhile, they sold the key to someone else, and then they got a game that just vanished from their site. So the dev who got no money, has to support the game, is now getting flack for something they didn't do, and someone else took the money and ran off. And it's the most bogus system. Just avoid key shops. Like, I need to stress this. They are a parasite on this entire or thing, and legitimately, literally pirate the game. You'll be doing the developer a favor, and you'll spend no money. It'll be free to you. So that is literally how bad that whole thing is, that it's worse than piracy. And you say, they are actually losing money because that money you were willing to spend did not go to the dev at all.
Yep.
So Rich said to go to, what was the website again?
gg.deals.
Yes. Yeah, gg.deals. And in the upper right is where you'll find the little button where it says enable key shops or disable key shops. So head to that website, bookmark it after you've turned off the disabled key shops so you don't see them. Because when I went there, it did say, like, Dynasty Warriors Origin, it was only $50, and then I turned off the key shops thing, and then it went up to $60 because it was one of those scam sites that was putting it on there. But I love that they give you the ability to filter that stuff out. Any final thoughts on key shops before we wrap up the show?
No.
All right.
No.
Everybody shook their head no instead of answering. That's great for audio.
Yes, that's right.
Just picking on you. All right, so we're going to wrap up the show because I know that some of us have things that we got to go do in real life, but you guys could have spent some time anywhere, and you decided to hang out with us for an hour and 21 minutes, and I really do appreciate that. Rich, tell everybody about your next project, where they can find it, and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know what I'm working on next, but you can find me on Fan to Deck. I'll probably make some sort of Steam Deck news video.
No.
No, could it be? Yeah.
Carrie, tell us how you're way too busy to make videos.
I am, but I did. I am just, work is atrocious right now, just absolutely terrible. I did finish recording a video and doing everything. It's literally sitting to be edited. Hopefully I can get to it tonight. But it is basically just taking a look at the GPD-Win Mini with Bazite running. It's actually pretty fascinating with regard to performance and how much power is being pulled extra from the system, even though Bazite is correctly setting the TDP. So if I go in, I check directly on the system itself, not even looking at their tools, it reports correctly, but it does, especially at higher wattages like 15 and 20, it does actually pull 2 more watts. So you can get wrong information if you're trying to compare 15 watt to 15 watt, because it's technically 15 watt to 17 watt. So that's a big difference. So there's some things they talk about in that video. I discuss it. Bottom line is that the CP scheduler is way better. Lots of cool information. That's going to be my video that I'm going to be doing soon.
Very cool. What about you, Russ? What are you working on, man?
I just dropped a Miu Flip review this morning, so I've been working on that. And then I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I now have that new iNeo Pocket Evo, so I'll probably do a review of that soon. But I don't like doing review after review after review, so I might do a catch-up video about the Retroid Pocket 5, because I've been messing around with the Linux side of it, Rocknix and whatnot. And I've really got it souped up at this point. I'm playing PS3 games on it. Xbox is working pretty well. And even there's some nice PC, like Wine and Vox games that I'm running too, like Ori and the Blind Forest is running on this thing. It's just kind of crazy.
Oh, wow.
So I may do like a showcase / tutorial video next, and then I'll do the Pocket Evo after that.
Very cool. Well, that's it for this episode of the Nerd Nest podcast. Thank you all for hanging out with us. I hope you have an awesome day. Stay rad. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.